Mark, welcome to Leisure League's headquarters in Shakespeare country of Warwickshire. It's lovely to have you here again as our brand ambassador. What have you been up to lately, mate?
It's always a pleasure coming to this place. I work for ESPN in the summer. It was fantastic to be involved doing some TV work, analysing refereeing decisions. But what I have to say is the refereeing were excellent during the tournament, but the players behaved themselves very, very well.
It was brilliant to see the response to the positivity from all the referees. Bjorn Kuipers as well was some referees had some beautiful games, didn't he?
Yeah, but he was always going to be tipped for the final. He's getting old and actually he's just recently retired as well. So it was a nice way to finish the tournament off. But you know, there was some really, really good refereeing performances. Even a mixture of European with a South American who did very, very well as well. Yeah,
it was good to see. And of course, you've done 2 major tournaments for Leisure Leagues and the ISF in Lisbon and in Crete. And we were talking earlier. You were saying about. I didn't click onto this, mate, until you mentioned it, that after the quarterfinals in Crete, we didn't have any yellow cards, did we?
No, that's probably down to the refereeing at the initial start of the tournament. They set the goals out. The players knew exactly what was going to happen. It was a new tournament, especially in Lisbon. Nobody knew what was going to happen. New law changes, new rules. There was some really good new laws that was introduced just for the 6-a-side. But the players really adapted well, and I think players really respected the referees, and the referees enjoyed themselves.
Yeah, it carries on the ethos of what Leisure Leagues do as a brand, week in, week out, all across the country, and indeed across the world with our franchises that we got across the world, is that we're very, very strong on discipline. And we've got some new rule changes coming this year, what we're going to be bringing in, about the goalkeeper can get involved more, which makes the game a bit faster. And one of the things we're getting tight on, Clat, is time wasting. And a lot of people don't understand how time wasting, in inverted commas, affects the game. What's your take on that?
Well, time consuming, not time wasting.
Brilliant,
time consuming. Yeah, it's part and parcel. Teams do it all the time, but what we want to do is want to see more playing time for people to enjoy it, getting more touches, more interaction. And I think it's a wonderful thing. But there's many other different laws that Leisure Leagues have brought into the 6-a-side, which is benefiting and could be used in 11-a-side as well. So, you know, it's brilliant to see. And I was lucky enough to referee some matches, 6-a-side. And I have to say that even at local parks level, the discipline's fantastic. And, you know, the referees feel in a safe environment, which is not always the case when you referee 11-a-side.
No, I agree. And of course, you went to Warsaw, one of our leagues at Warsaw recently. Had a good crack there. The feedback we got from that and the positivity continues even after you left. So that was a really major impact.
No, it was a nice thing to do. And, you know, even though it was a cold night, I remember that, even in the middle of the summer. But it was just that the respect, and what was also great was, especially just after the lockdown of COVID, that players wanted to play, they wanted to enjoy it. Even one team, you know, there was such a vast quality and difference, but you have to say that everybody enjoyed it, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah, and one of the things you did last time when we were at our HQ, and we were going to do this regular slot when you're in called Tips to the Clattenburg, which is all about giving tips as a referee. And last week, just to set the tone last time rather, we touched on 11-a-side football. And one of the things that really has always held you in as a top-end match official is how you communicate non-verbally and the importance of that in the 6-a-side game. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I suppose it's easy to communicate when you're in your own country. It's when, for example, when you're doing the Soccer World Cup, you've got players from all over the world, so you have to use different communication skills. And one of my strengths was always, because I refereed many games abroad, was that even if they didn't understand English, they'll understand your body language, that they know when you're angry, they know when you're disappointed. And just using facial expressions or use of your hands or your whistle can have the same effect as actually speaking. So, and okay, referees always have the red and yellow card as the last resort. But one thing that referees are always taught from a young age is try and build up management skills that you can be able to communicate with players. And this is what I see a lot, even just watching some of the local matches for Leisure Leagues, that the referees are starting to interact with the players. And you know, it's more important that they build up their relationships and also build up their communication skills, which also helps them in life and in employment life.
No, it's a great point, mate. It's a great point. And we've got some great shots of you in Lisbon and in Crete where you're just using hand gestures and facial expressions that, as we said, about transferable skills. And there's a shot of you, I think it was the Champions League final, Atletico against Real Madrid, where you went, didn't you go like that? I'm watching you. Was that to Pepe or someone?
Also the use of the tongue. It depends which one you wanted. Which one you wanted. But we'll not repeat that one. But no, these type of gestures the players know. But if they don't know English, it makes it more and more difficult. So you have to use different techniques. And when you go to the Soccer World Cup, for example, you've got teams from all over the world, Mexico, you've got teams that don't maybe communicate as much with the English. So referees have to adapt. And we've also got a lot of international referees come together, but as we all know, the common language in refereeing in all over the world is English. So most referees will try and want to speak English because they want to reach the top in UEFA and FIFA.
Yeah, it's important to us as a brand across the world that six-a-side is a language everyone can speak, everyone can do. The beauty is that you can start a game in our World Cups or in our leagues across Egypt, Mexico, Lithuania, Hungary, where people might not even speak the same language, but they can all know how to play six-a-side.
And it's not just about the language, it's about anybody can play. And this is one of the unique things where I suppose in 11-a-side you don't have that. Everybody, you have to have a good standard, where six-a-side's more about enjoying. And it's a bit about a crack with your mates. Yeah. Everybody just wants to play with their friends and enjoy it, and sometimes have a beer afterwards. And this is what it's about. It's about the spirit. And that's what you can clearly see when you're watching Leisure Leagues football, about the spirit, about how everybody wants to enjoy it. And that's how referees feel that they're in a safe environment, because it's more enjoyable than it is about the winning of the matches.
No, great shout. And of course, one of our USPs as a worldwide brand is that we allow females and males to play in the same team. So we can have, 6 men playing against 6 women, or we can have 3 men and 3 women in one team. So what we found about that, we don't want to discriminate against anybody. And particularly we think we've got some wonderful female players, and the female brand on 11-a-side has grown unbelievably across the world, and we really have seen the same reflected in 6-a-sides across the world as well as in the UK. So, when you're in that environment, that in itself just breeds this togetherness, this more enjoyable, this more community engagement. And I know you identified that when we talked about last time about it.
Yeah, I think the world's moved so far on over the last years that discrimination isn't accepted in any part of life, and it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. The one common goal is, do you want to play football and enjoy it? And that's the most important thing. And as long as they're enjoying it, then they should be involved. And it's the same for the referee. And if the woman wants to referee in leisure leagues, in 6-a-side, then feel free, that it's a safe environment and you'll be protected, because leisure leagues are very, very strong on discipline, and they won't accept bad behaviour.
Yeah, and I remember you saying last time you come up when we were having a cup of tea, that the guys, the area managers, a lot of people don't know, and it's something we try to get out there, is that every referee who does a game for us any night of the week gets a phone call the next day from one of our area managers. And I've seen you were quite shocked about that when you seen that.
Yeah, because it shows the level of protection. That never happened when, for example, I was coming through in the 11-a-side game. There was no protection. You were just put out into the pitch, and many of the players would abuse you, and then you left, and then you think, should I referee again or should I not? This was the common life, where this doesn't happen in Leisure League's brand. Leisure Leagues care about the referees. They've got a duty of care, and they care a lot that they want the referees to feel safe but enjoy it, so they come back week in, week out. It's they want to retain the referees, not just lose them after 1 week.
Yeah. And one of the rules we're bringing out, which is about moving the ball forward if we get any really strong dissent, if it's borderline before the card, because of course we use sin bins. We've been using sin bins decades before the FA brought them in, which is a positive thing. So we want to be able to create this toolbox for referees at Leisure Leagues, which we're creating. And one of them is about moving the ball forward 5 metres. And remember in the 11-side game, that was brought in and it had good effect, didn't it? But it got taken out of the game for some reason, didn't it, in 11-side?
Yeah, it depends how far, because the problem with 11-a-side was when they moved the ball forward. I remember the situation with McCann and Beckham, Sunderland v Manchester United, and Gavin McCann just deliberately kicked the ball away, so David Beckham had to move the free kick further up, which meant he couldn't get the ball up and down. It was in his range originally, and they just deliberately kicked it away. The ball had to be advanced, so therefore it was used against the spirit of the game. And one of the things we could look at is taking for example, hockey as an example, where you get a penalty chance if the dissent is strong, so the punishment is more, because sin bins sometimes work, especially in 6-a-side, it certainly works, but you've also got to look at the bigger punishment of giving a penalty against your team, and that would certainly for dissent start to kill dissent a lot more, because teams don't want to give a penalty away.
No, I agree. I really do. And again, we touched on it, is because how we've looked at that as a brand worldwide is that on the advice that you give us and the expertise is that we're now going to be able to give the referee a choice if he moves it forward, or the player a choice to move forward. Because like you said, some of them would intentionally descend to take that free kick to a lesser area on a field of play where there isn't a chance of scoring a goal. So your input on that was really valuable. So what we're going to do, what our rule changes, is going to be that we're going to give the player the option. Do you want it moving forward when it's in that area or not? Because as you identified, sometimes moving it forward can have the adverse effect of what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, because it's got to be in the spirit, but you know that players, the more educated than ever, and they're looking at how they can work out how to make the rules suit themselves, and they'll do everything they can, and we've got to find a way to make sure that the game's played in a fair spirit, but also in a way that protects the referees if they are given a lot of dissent, because dissent's a very difficult thing for some young referees to deal with, especially when they haven't got the skill sets on how to deal with it.
Yeah, and another guidance we took from you, which you brought into the Crete World Cup, advice about this imaginary card, which again, we, talking to players around the world at 6-a-side, we know that just undermines you as a referee when someone does that to you when they've been tackled. So. Yeah,
but it's also a culture thing, because you see that a lot with this different areas of the world where it's used a lot more, and it's not as was dominant in Europe, but it's certainly in other parts of the world where players seem that it's acceptable when it's not, because it damages the image of the game.
Yeah, so of course then we bring that rule. What brought that rule change in for the Crete World Cup, that if you did that to a referee, that you were sin binned automatically.
Yeah, and that's what we're talking about in the early part of the tournament, where the discipline was, everybody, all the players maybe had the experience of Lisbon, but didn't have the experience, I'll say, of Crete, because for my Greek colleagues, they say Crete, we say Crete, so I have to find that balance. But I think people started to understand, especially after Lisbon, what was more accepted. The sliding tackle, for example, which is outlawed in 6-a-side and would be punished. We're seeing the odd occasion early in the tournament, but once everybody understood. But once the tournament goes on and the stakes are very, very high, then the discipline becomes a little bit more difficult, because players want to win. They've travelled all over the world to play in this tournament, and it's their dream and the chance to play in it. But also the referees need to understand that we've got to protect the image of the game, but also understand that these players, it's their one chance, and they've travelled an awful long way to play in this tournament.
It's important, because when we analysed it, Russia, who won it, it was an amazing team, weren't they? An unbelievable team. The whole tournament, they had 2 cautions. Yeah. They won it.
And that's the discipline that they had, and Russia were at a different level, and we've seen some great tournaments, and in Lisbon as well, the quality of play. I was quite astounded about the quality of football that was played, and it was to play in an environment in a full stadium, especially for the finals, was probably their one chance. And it's the same for the referees to referee in such an environment where they don't get that in other leagues around. For example, in the UK, it's a cold night, you've got 10 players and that's it, and your match manager. So it's a nice opportunity for some of these referees to be able to referee in these type of tournaments.
Yeah, we're very proud to be able to have that journey, and people are just so enthused to say, oh my God, I can be in the same group as Clat, I can do a game with Clat, and that's a very unique thing that we can offer, and we're really pleased to have you involved in that, mate. And obviously, next World Cup is in a beautiful Mexican Caribbean islands of Cozumel, and can't wait to see you there.
I know, it'll be fantastic. You've gone from Lisbon to Crete to Mexico. It's we're going around the world, and it's been a difficult, I suppose, 12 to 18 months for everyone at the moment because of COVID, but hopefully everybody's coming out of COVID now, and we can move forward and have a successful World Cup, because we all thought in Lisbon it couldn't be beaten. It was. We had such a fantastic tournament in Greece, and now we're going to Mexico and we're thinking, can this get any better? And the challenges are down to the Mexicans to showcase what this World Cup can be, because when you see the World Cup as it is, I was blown away of the stadiums, the quality, the organisation that goes into these type of tournaments, and it was unbelievable to be a part of.
Yeah, we can't argue any of that. And Sergio, we saw would deliver a wonderful tournament. And Mark, it's wonderful to have you here again. Thank you for all you do and advising us how we support our referees and how we deliver positive environments for all those who engage in leisure leagues. Thanks, mate. Great to see you.
Thank you.